And we are live again, and it's Tuesday night again already. Man, this week has flown by. I've had a pretty eventful weekend, and I'll get right to that. But as always, I want to start this off by thanking our moderators over there. Kashuga Zentite, she's over there, and she does a great job keeping the trolls and the bots out so we can enjoy our chat. Another thing I always start out with, advertising my books. If you've not already, this is my first book I wrote called The Shampe, which is a fictional story based on a monster in Choctaw legend. And my book that recently published is Kiamichi Bigfoot, Investigating the Oklahoma Sasquatch, which is very autobiographical of me and the investigations I've taken part in. That being said, big shout out to the Bigfoot Museum, and they're in Tallahena. Tanya and Chuck, the owners of that place, had me down to do a book signing last Saturday, and it was wonderful. Got to meet some new people. Got to meet a fellow Oklahoma author named John Vandeventer and swapped books with him and chatted a little bit. So that was really neat. If you're ever in Tallahena, Oklahoma, stop by the Bigfoot Museum there and visit Tanya and Chuck. They got some good stuff in there. They've got Bigfoot related gifts. They've got a lot of books for sale, including my own, and also a lot of things to look at, like some footprint casts from the area and such. So yeah, if you're in Tallahena, stop by and check that out. Now, next week, well, tonight we got a very special guest, a friend of mine I've got acquainted with over the last several months, WillStar, who has done a great job of growing his channel, and I've been looking forward to talking to him. Next week, I've got Craig Woolheater, which I have not seen Craig in about 20 years. I saw him at the first Texas Bigfoot Conference in Jefferson, Texas, back in 2001. And Craig is the organizer of the Bigfoot Film Festival down there in Texas. He's one of the organizers of the Fouke Monster Festival in Fouke, Arkansas. He's the host of the Texas Bigfoot Conference still to this day in Jefferson, Texas, and he's the co-founder of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, or the TBRC. So that is our guest for next Tuesday. So be sure and put that on your schedule. Now we got that out of the way. I want to welcome our guest for this week. This is my friend WillStar from the YouTube channel WillStar. Just about caught you off camera, didn't I?
That's all right. That's all right. I heard my name, so I was like, I better get back to it.
How you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, David. I really do appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for coming on. Glad you had time. Let's look over. We got a pretty good crew in chat to start out with, and I'd like to give a shout out to them. We got again Kashuga Zentite, our wonderful moderator, Mopar Bill, Gary Spikes Sr., and I know Gary personally. Let's see, we got Mopar Bill, Gene Hudson. Who else we got here?
Mopar Bill, what's up, Mopar?
Yeah, Elsie, Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group. That's my friend Joe from up there in New York, where I hope it's cooler weather there. It is stinking miserable, 110 degrees down here where I'm at. Patty, Gene Hudson. Who else we got? Keith McDonald, Strangeland. I think Strangeland's all the way up there in Newfoundland. So yeah, we got a good crew to start off with here. King of Hueco Mundo. Let's see here. David Perkins, that's my buddy from down southwest Oklahoma. And Brian McCann, Clint Walker. We just got them building up over there, Will. So
that works for me.
Let's get on with this. So how you been lately? What have you been doing with yourself?
Good. Just living life, man. Trying to put out these videos and keep people entertained, you know?
Yeah, I tell you what, Will, you have built your channel up so fast it's almost fall into the paranormal itself there, because it doesn't seem like very far back you had what, 6,000 subscribers. Now you got, is it like 35,000 now?
Yeah, I just went through 35,000 yesterday or today.
Wow.
Yeah, but you're right. I gained a lot of subs in 4 months. November, December, January, and February, my channel just exploded. One day I checking my analytics, it was just the normal, 1,500 views per day. And all of a sudden, bam, 60,000 views per day. I was like, where does that come from? Who knows what the mysterious YouTube algorithm has in store.
The YouTube algorithm gods smiled on you. So for those who are, I've got a link, and Cashew just put it up. If you are not familiar with WillStar's YouTube channel, I put a link to it in the description, as well as links to my books, if you wish, and some Bigfoot and more merchandise that I've designed and have available as well. There's my buddy John Hodges from not far from me. Well, Will, you've done, the one thing that really stands out about your channel to me is, other than just you've been really turning out some very large quantity of good quality videos about these historical accounts, and how you find those and all. And let me throw this out here to you guys in chat. If you have any questions, please put them in caps so I can get to them. I do my best to get to all the questions. If I miss them, it is not on purpose, but if you put them in caps, I will be more apt to see it. But I was looking at one earlier just before you came on, the one about the Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone separate encounters. And I have to admit, that's the first I had heard of those, Will.
I hadn't heard about it either until I started doing my research. And then somebody, I think, pointed me in the direction, like one of the viewers, they emailed me, said, hey, I've heard about it. So I researched it, and lo and behold, I found the information, and I was like, hey, I'm sure people want to hear about this. Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett's are American legends, frontiersmen to the max. So I think that, stories like that, like I always say in my videos, the older stories, they carry more weight for me. There was no YouTube. Why would you tell a story like that? You're not going to get famous. You're going to be made fun of most of the time back then, So those older stories carry a lot of weight to me. And the Native American encounter stories also. Those two, to me, are like on another level. The other ones, I'm not saying I don't believe, because I do, 95% of them. But what I'm trying to say is just that older generational stuff to me just hits home a little bit more than, the modern, where somebody could fake something to just become, be getting notoriety and become famous.
Right. And Pyromedic there, I actually met him at the signing, the book signing on a Saturday. And it was great to meet you too. And another thing, WillStar, when we go back and looking at those old historic accounts, they would not have had any preconceived idea. Like today, Bigfoot is pop culture. Yeah. You would be hard pressed to find someone who did not have at least some idea of what a Bigfoot is supposed to look like.
Or seen the Patty footage.
Or seen the Putty.
Yeah.
Okay, I've worked on that. I can't talk. The Patty footage or whatever. But, the one of Daniel Boone's, of the two of them, I think the one that Davy Crockett said was the most familiar to what we hear about today. He was in what we call the Big Thicket area. Yeah. There in East Texas, headed down, I guess, towards where the Alamo was, where he would meet his end, and sitting there in the swampy area, and this thing just appeared to him out there. What he described, a big 8-man type thing, and this would have been 1812?
Yeah, way back then.
So he would not have had any
right
idea what that was, and he thought, was it a spirit, or was it in a way it just disappeared so quickly? Yeah. We know these things are fast, and But even stranger than that, he says it addressed him and warned him not to go down there.
Yes, it did.
So what can we learn from that, Will? If Bigfoot appears to you and says, "Do not go to the Alamo," listen to him.
Yes, listen to Bigfoot. Like, okay, I'm going back the other way.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, here's Chris Kimball from down Florida. He said, "I found that account from 1774 in Florida, William Bartram." Okay, so yeah, there are old accounts, and there's some old ones even from Oklahoma. Now, the Daniel Boone one was bizarre, the way he described the creature.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I mean, a lot of people have an issue with that he shot it from so far away and shot it in the eye. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could go along with that, but also you have to remember he was like frontiersman extreme. You know, like he probably could outshoot almost anybody around today. You know what I mean? So you got to give and take with that one. Like I can understand why people would be like, "Oh, how you can shoot it in the eye from so?" Yeah, for most people, but he wasn't really most people. So there is a possibility that he could have pulled off a shot like that.
And it could have been dumb luck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true too.
But the way he was describing its ribs is not really being ribs, but a solid plate of bone under there. If either one of those two accounts was suspect, I would lean more toward that one. But as far as what we're familiar with today, what Davy Crockett was describing was a Bigfoot.
Yeah, I agree. And they were what, in Nacogdoches area down in there?
Yeah, they call it. Well, over into Louisiana, they have another area that's spelled like that, and they call it Natchitoches. But you come over into Texas, they call it Nacogdoches.
Okay.
So, and I think it's the same spelling, but I got corrected on that one time when I was down there, and I could be backwards there. So if anybody knows better, you can correct me here. But yeah, that was. And another thing that stands out about your encounter recollections there from people is you use Google Earth. I'm assuming it's Google Earth to go in and find the areas where these took place. Yep. And I find that very interesting because I'm one of these people, when I would read the Bigfoot books in the old days, I would always run and grab a map and try to figure out where it's at. And you're bridging the gap for us. So that's
the same thing happened to me, David. I was reading these accounts, like watching, like listening to the accounts. I'm like, well, where is it? Why aren't you showing us? And I'm like, I can't be the only one that wants to see these locations when you're hearing these accounts. So I just figured if I wanted to see it, other people would want to see it too. And thankfully they do, you know. It brings another aspect to the video that other people are bringing out there, you know, like people tell the stories and blah, 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 but they don't show the location. Like if you see the location and see the terrain and the surrounding areas, you can picture in your mind, okay, you know, those creatures could be in that area. You know, like if you just see it on paper, you're like, maybe not. But if you see those areas with the Google Earth that I show, I think it really reinforces to people that, yeah, this creature could definitely be in those areas.
Right. So what do you think of this? And the reason I bring this up, and I mentioned it to you before you came on, is there's a new TV show on now that's Killer Bigfoot, and it's there, Portlock, Alaska, and you put out some. I'll let you talk about that. Your videos on that.
Well, I made a video on that area because somebody was asking me about that video, that location, because of the TV show. So I made the encounter, told the story, showed the location. People really did like it. The video did really well. But as far as the TV show, I it's kind of rough. You know what I mean? I don't know what their thought process is. I feel sorry for the locals that they use on the show. They're trying to turn those people into like TV people. You know, sometimes that just doesn't work. You know what I mean? They just can't carry a show like that. And the things that are popping up on the show, like, oh, my stomach hurts. Like, oh, it's got to be Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like you can't have ate a bad pastry that morning or had some bad orange juice or, whatever it might be that they're eating or whatever. Like everything just seems to be related to Bigfoot. And to me, that's just a little bit out there. It's hard to watch the show, to be honest with you.
Well,
I'm going to stick with it to see if it gets any better. But
yeah, and that's the thing. It is, and I was put on the spot a little bit about that on, here's Brian McMahon. He said it very well. The stories of Portlock are crazy, but the TV show was horrible.
Yeah, it is.
So let me just say this. If you want to see something on video that's informative and entertaining both, watch WillStar's video about the Portlock. It is hands down better than the TV show. But yeah, that's definitely it. At the book signing on Saturday, somebody asked me about these shows like that one and what's the other
Expedition Bigfoot.
Expedition Bigfoot, and I just had to say, well, are you asking me what I think of it for entertainment value or actual research?
Yeah,
because they're two very different things.
Two different things there, absolutely.
Like from what I've seen so far on the Portlock thing for entertainment, it's really not really pulling that off very good yet. But here's the thing, Will, when those shows are on, I still watch them.
I do too, because it's Bigfoot related. You know what I mean? Just in case there's something there that I might learn or pick up.
I'll be bored to tears, and I'm like going, yeah. It's like Joe just said here. It's know it for entertainment. Don't expect any actual facts from them. They're
weirdly addicting, though. You know what I mean? Like when I see one coming on, like even if it's a week away, I'm going on my DVR and pressing record. Like make sure it's recorded so I can watch it. But some of them are just really far out there. I agree with that.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. You and I are probably not too distant apart in years that we would have grown up seeing some of the old school documentaries.
Yeah.
Like The Mysterious Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? When that came out as a kid, when I saw the advertisements that was going to be on, and we didn't have cable. We had 2 channels and rabbit ears, and I was waiting on that. Just couldn't wait to. And when it came on, they were actual, whether you agreed with them or not, they were actual documentaries.
Yeah. Where
now, unfortunately, what I'm seeing, I would put under a weak attempt at reality TV.
Yeah, they want to sensationalize a lot of things to keep the viewers hooked. You know what I mean? And like coming back. And I don't know, maybe they think most people don't see through that or something, and that's why they keep doing it. But a lot of us see through it. Like, come on, man. Like, you're sick. That Bigfoot didn't cause you to get sick there.
Yeah, I mean, the guy throwing out, it's like, well, could it have had anything to do with you on that long boat ride across choppy waves?
Yeah, exactly.
I might have thrown up too, But, okay, now this one is the good one. There was a show of some hillbillies that would hunt for creatures and was a very good show. Go into details of creatures, even went on Bigfoot, very odd stuff. That one's Mountain Monsters.
Yes, yeah.
Now, guys, keep in mind that Mountain Monsters is kind of satire,
right?
And it's pretty obvious, but that show is entertaining, especially the one where they went looking for the Mothman, and that guy that was a former Marine built the world's biggest bug zapper to try to catch. Oh man, I about choked. I was laughing so hard with that. I mean, that was
the world's biggest bug zapper.
That one there is so out there. It's just obvious that that's for fun.
Right. I agree.
So, but there's some of them, that just I can't get past. And two, a lot of that may be the fault of like the producers trying to, do stuff just to make it that way. You just never know unless you're there.
Yeah.
So, Will, what got you interested in the Bigfoot subject?
Well, I've always been interested in since seeing it as a little kid on the show In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. Yeah. I watched that show, and that kind of got me hooked. And then seeing the Patty footage growing up, as soon as I saw that Patty footage, I know people still try to argue either way, but as soon as I saw it, Dave, like something inside me says that's real. You know what I mean? Like I as soon it just clicked as soon as I saw it. So those two things, and then when I had my own encounter in 2000, it really, put it into the forefront from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was on YouTube, I started just gaming and stuff and just going down the rabbit hole on YouTube, just watching videos. And I typed in Bigfoot stuff. And then I was watching some stories and I'm like, man, I haven't heard that one. Or, wow, that's new to me. That's new to me. But where's it at? Where did this happen? So, and that's when it was like, ding, ding, ding. Start making some videos. People would like to see that. So I've always had, I've always been interested in the subject. Always been mostly a believer until 2000, and then I became a knower. But before that, like when I was a little kid, I always used to think in the back of my head, you know what, all these other things, I'm not so sure about vampires and all that other stuff, but a creature that can live out in the woods, solitary out in the wilderness, that's possible. And then like I said, I saw the Patty footage and that kind of like cemented it for me. And then later on in life, about 2000, I had my own encounter. And then that turned me from, yeah, those things probably could exist to, yeah, they do exist. There was one. And then, I just wanted to put more information out there for people. And I'm glad that they're enjoying it and watching the videos. I make it to inform people and show locations and maybe give some information to people that haven't seen these videos before. And then I also like to add that added layer of showing the locations to make it stand out from everybody else. That when I first started doing these videos, I said, well, there's a million Bigfoot channels out there. What are you going to do that stands out from the rest that's going to make people want to watch? And I'm like, well, no one else showing these locations. Let me go ahead and do that. And let me keep these people entertained, the viewers entertained while I'm telling the story. If you watch my videos, it isn't just like a fire for 30 minutes in the background while I'm talking. I try to insert images of certain things they talk about, whether it be like a type of a car, old car, or whatever, just to keep people entertained. YouTube, there's so many choices out there for people. People can click off as soon as they, whenever they want, as soon as they get.
And that's a challenge, and I think you've done a really good job at it. The challenge is to be informative and real, yet at the same time make it entertaining enough that people will want to watch it and hear it.
Yeah.
And you put a lot of stuff out there, and I know you've liked the Choctaw Wars quote down in LaFleur County. You asked me what I thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the stories, I traced that back. It was made up as a story to put on the internet and whatever, but it's one of those things that has grown into, and a lot of people think that really happened.
Listen, Dave, when I made the video, I thought that it possibly could happen too. I didn't know you until I made that video, and then you reached out to me about the area, and I'm like, well, this is the information I have. And then when you told me, I'm like, well, it's too late now. I could take the video down, but people still like to watch it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And there's no telling how many stories are out there that may not be, but putting them out there, let people make up their own mind. The way you do it is very good and informative. I got to throw this up there. Joe said this, that guy on Mountain Monsters used to build the best traps. Never trapped a Bigfoot, but the trap construction was awesome. And Joe, the thing is, some of those traps, if this is assuming most people in chat seen some of that. I mean, what would actually walk in any of those traps? I mean, now here last year we had this state representative here that did that Bigfoot hunting season, trapping season bill, and I'm kind of surprised that the Mountain Monsters guys haven't come to Oklahoma and been out setting some traps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about several of the accounts that you put on that are very interesting. One of my favorites, and this is an old story, is about the young Indian girl up in the Pacific Northwest that was kidnapped or abducted by a male Sasquatch and kept in captivity for a while, even around its family in a cave up there, and was impregnated by that.
I've had a couple of encounters like that I made videos about, and that goes to the point about what are these creatures. They cannot be an ape if they're
Yes.
making these Native Americans women pregnant. They have to be some type of an ancient human being. In the Native Americans, that's what they call them. They call them an ancient type of human race, where, well, an ancient type of tribe, but they speak like the old Douglas dialect.
Hmm.
You know, the Douglas tribe there up in Harrison Lake on the northern end there. There's the Douglas tribe, and
Yeah.
supposedly these creatures speak that dialect. Like an ape isn't going to do that. And if you have ever heard Ron Moorhead's Sierra Sounds, I'm sure you have.
Right.
That doesn't sound ape to me. That sounds more human vocal. I mean, outside of the range of a human, but
Yeah.
more,
That's
more of a human type vocalization than like an ape just out there doing its thing.
and and I've used that account when people say what are they, and that's what I have used as well. If those old stories from the Pacific Northwest of
Yeah.
these beings abducting a young human woman and making a baby with them, if those are true, that cannot be an ape. That's
No.
got to be something very closely related to us,
Yes.
if not
Yes.
a type of us. Just one that is perfectly designed to live out in the wild like it is. So that's amazing. I saw a question for you down here. Let me get to
When
it.
I hear stories like that, encounters like that, it makes me wonder if maybe there's not a couple different types of creatures out there that we're putting together. Like maybe there is an ancient Indian, and I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just wondering.
Mhm.
Maybe there is an ancient Indian tribe out there, bigger people, but then maybe there all or is also a large ape out there somewhere. We never know. We None of us know. That's the thing.
And it
We
is
really
true. It doesn't have to be all or none.
no.
As a matter of fact, a lot of the descriptions of what people see in the Himalayas seems to be more ape-like,
Yeah.
which a lot of the big name guys that investigate this have pondered that if that is discovered there, it probably is more of a
I heard polar bear.
no, a type of like ape, like an orangutan type
Okay.
type of an ape, where what's over here is definitely more human-like. Matter of fact, the foot is a human foot. Looking, it's just
Yeah.
really big.
Yeah.
Here's Keith McDonald said, WillStar, please tell us your encounter.
Whenever you're ready, David, it's up to you.
Hey.
All right. So, year 2000, my fiance and I, my daughter's mother, we're not together anymore. We split up when my daughter was really young, but we went to a cabin down in Logan, Ohio. It was the last weekend or the first weekend, last weekend of October or first weekend of November. And we had got the cabin at that time of the year because up here in Ohio, that's when the leaves on the trees change colors and everything's really beautiful. So we were going to go down there and enjoy, the outdoors and each other's company, that type of stuff. So we're down there, and the place is called Cabins in the Pines in Logan, Ohio, if anybody wants to look it up. We stayed in the northernmost cabin. There's like, I think 3 or 4, but we're on the northernmost one. And the only other couple that was there that weekend was like a 70-year-old couple. So that's kind of important to the encounter.
Mm-hmm.
So on Friday, we go down there, hang out, go to the hot tub on the porch, have the fire. Nothing happens. Saturday, we go out, see the sights of the area. There's like caves and like big ravines and canyons, things like that. Just beautiful outdoor activities to take in. On the way back, we stop at this little store. I buy some potatoes, some like country ribs, things like that. And we cooked some food on the open fire out in the clearing area next to the cabin. So while I'm out there cooking, we got a little radio going, but really, really low. So low, in fact, that like if you get up and walk away from the fire towards the cabin, you can't hear it anymore. Because you don't go to a place like that to have the radio super loud and disturb people,
Mm-hmm.
especially a couple 70-year-olds next. So we're sitting there, I'm cooking some ribs. food smelling good, listening to the radio. All of a sudden, from far away in the western direction, southwest western direction, I hear something walking, and I'm like, hold on, what is that? And then it just keeps on walking. She's like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know. It kept walking for like 20 minutes. What it would do is like it would take 2 steps and then stop. And then 2 steps more, then maybe 2 steps more, and then stop. And remember, this is in the fall when like a lot of leaves are on the ground already, so you can hear crunching through. That's how we hear the steps. It isn't like we felt vibrations or anything like that. So eventually it comes all the way up to the clearing. And another thing I need to mention is at that time of year, it gets dark really early, right? So we were there. We started the fire, and I started the fire and cooking right before it started getting dark, so I could see what I was doing. But as we're cooking, it's getting darker. When this thing is walking up into the area, it's like twilight, so it's kind of dark, but you can still see light up in the sky, like on the clouds and things like that. So we're sitting there cooking it. It's walking, and we're like, "What is that?" She's like, "What is it?" I'm like, "I don't know." Finally, it walks all the way up to the tree line and just stops. And we could hear it walk to there. And she's like, "Oh my God, what is that?" So I'm like, I don't know what it is. To be honest, at first, guys, I thought it might be like a crazy man or something coming through the woods. But in the area we were, there's really nothing out that way. Okay. And like I said, the only other people at that property were 2 7-year-olds. They're not going to be walking from a half a mile, whatever it was, all the way up through the woods like that. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what's going on? I think it's some crazy dude coming to, like 911 us or something. So I'm like, hey, I start getting mad because she starts flipping out. She's like, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Who are you? And she's like, oh my God, I need to get out of here. We need to get inside. So to take her inside, I had to walk closer towards where it was to get to the door. I take her inside and she's flipping out, and I let her go in. I don't go in. And then I turn. I forgot to mention, I grabbed a stick out of the fire. It's about the size of a baseball bat, maybe a little thinner, but it had like a little flame on the end. And I used that as a torch because this is in 2000 before cell phones and all that. And I didn't have a flashlight handy because we weren't thinking of none of this happening. I was just out there cooking, and we were going to go right back to. So I walk over there with her with a torch. I let her in, and then I started yelling at this thing because I don't know that it's a person. I mean, that it's a creature first. I see it behind a tree, and it's massive, okay? And it's going back and forth behind the tree like this. I played basketball growing up my whole life. I played with a bunch of 7-footers. I know what a 7-foot creature looks like. This thing was between 6'10" and 7'2", right in that area. So I have her go inside. I'm holding this this stick, and I'm like, hey, who the hell are you walking up on me and my girl like this in the middle of nowhere? I'm about to blow your brain. I didn't have a gun or anything like that, but I pretended I did. I raised my hand up like this and I'm like, I'm about to blow your brains out. I'm going to count down, and if you don't say something, I'm going to start shooting. It just kept doing this behind the tree, like looking like this huge thing. And then eventually I didn't know what else to do. I just took the stick and I whipped it at it. I mean, that was just stupid, crazy. I don't know why I did that, but I was aggravated, frustrated because it was ruining my night. But the stick, went like this. It hit some trees, brushes, dropped, woefully short of the creature. And then I yelled at it really loud. I'm like, hey, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? And then it turned and just slowly started walking away. But by that time, it was even darker. So I couldn't really see it walking away. I could just hear it walking away. But I didn't see this creature at like high noon, bright sunlight.
Right.
But 2 and 2 to me, like where we were, how big it was, the silhouette that I saw, the way it didn't respond to me threatening to shoot it coming up into, our camp like that. What else could it have been, David?
Yeah. Well, it apparently didn't understand English.
No. Because if it was a person, they would be like, hold on, bro. I'm just walking through, or I'm not here. Don't shoot at me. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just kept doing this behind the tree, but it was really big. Like I said, it just kept doing this back and forth, and didn't respond at all. I threw the stick. I yelled, like I said, I yelled at it like it was like a stray dog or something, like, get out of here. and it just turned and walked away back the way it came. We went inside. She's flipping out. She wants to leave, and I'm like, it left because I didn't want to leave. And but we closed all the blinds, locked all the doors. Like, we were afraid it was going to be looking in the windows to us, and we did not go into the hot tub that night, anything like that. Chris, I do think that it might have smelled the food, to be honest with you.
Could be.
I don't know if that's what drew its attention, because the radio wasn't loud enough for it to hear it, unless it can hear like super, super, super like hearing. And we weren't talking loud enough for it to hear us, but it made a beeline through those woods up to where we were. Like, so I always try to think back, and I can't remember the wind blowing which direction. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to sit here like, oh, yeah, it was the wind. The wind was blowing the food sent down there. I don't know that for sure. But in my mind, I'm thinking that very well could have been the possibility. It smelled that, and it was walking up to check it out, maybe. I don't know. So that's what made me into a knower. Because, listen, I'm not a stupid man. I don't fall for a lot of stuff. Really nothing. I think for myself. I'm an independent thinker. I don't think groupthink thoughts. You know what I mean? So I know how to, investigate things to myself in my mind and be like, yeah, we're in the middle of nowhere. The thing was between 6'10" and 7'2". It didn't respond to me. Like, you know what I mean? So to me, that was a creature, a Bigfoot, and that was my encounter. That turned me in from basically thinking these things were real because of everything I, told you about before, to becoming, these things are definitely real. I had my own encounter. So that's it. Okay. Any questions about it, I'm more than willing to ask,
Said, thank you for sharing that. Now, Will, did you, like the next morning or so in the daylight, did you go out and look for any other evidence of its passage there? Or
absolutely I did, but there were so many leaves on the ground, David. You could see where something had walked, kind of like, but you can't see no prints, if that makes any sense. And another thing I did was I went into the registry book and looked back, like to see if anybody else had claimed seeing anything in that book. You know what I mean? Because I wrote right in the book, I said, hey, a creature walked up on us last night, and it couldn't have been nothing but a Sasquatch. It was not a hunter. It was too big, and I put basically the whole thing in that book. My fiance at the time was like, you're going to scare people away from coming here. They're going to read it. And I'm like, hey, they need to know. This is an area where these creatures are, and they need to know that they can walk up on them sometimes.
Now, the area, is that something you keep secret, or do you?
No, absolutely not. I'll tell you again. It was Logan, Ohio. It was at the Cabins in the Pines. Now, I've actually rented that cabin for the same. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's either the last weekend of October or the first weekend of November it was. But it was way back in 2000, so I can't put the, which week it was. But this year, I have rented that cabin for the last weekend of October. So I'm going to be going back down there and making a documentary of my encounter and showing everybody the location and where we were, where the creature was, all that stuff. So I hope, people are excited to see that. So
you were I believe you were on a Western New York Joe here. You was on his channel a while back, weren't you?
I was. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. How you doing, bud?
Joe.
Yeah. The story, the encounter is what it is. You know what I mean? I don't like to call these things stories because they're not really, when you say story, and I've tried to do this in my own videos that I make now, is I try to leave out that word. When a person hears stories, they like, oh, that could be like a make-believe story. These things deserve more credit than that. So I try to catch myself sometimes from saying story and just always saying account or encounter. But even once in a while, I say story. So,
yeah. Now here's and I think Lion Platinum is new to our chat here. Welcome. Says, I think these Bigfoots are very intelligent, absolutely, and most definitely territorial. I base that on WillStar's report on the Mount St. Helens account.
Yeah.
I assume that you're talking about the
when it erupted,
the one with the miners and all that.
No, I think he's talking about the one after the eruption when they found the bodies and they were working with one of these creatures. You know, supposedly I wasn't there, you weren't there, but
Right.
in that video encounter, the military had one of these creatures, and they were going cave to cave and looking for other burnt body, like Bigfoots that were in trouble, or like, you know, burn up and were about to die. And
Okay.
in some of those encounters, they found a couple, and according to the story, I mean the encounter,
Right.
they put one of the Sasquatches down because he was burned up so bad and things like that.
So
But
what?
supposedly they were speaking back and forth with the military.
Who
And
was?
that goes back to that Douglas Indian Native American dialect that people think that they speak.
Oh, okay. But Lion Platinum did make the reason I was thinking about the attack at Mount St. Helens was the territorial comment there about them being territorial.
The Fred Beck one, the Ape Canyon.
Right. Now I want to use that to say this, though, and this would fall into the Bauman as well. The attack at Ape Canyon on the cabin, what started that?
Them shooting at it.
They actually shot one and it tumbled off. They were not attacked before that. They were seeing these things, observing them, but they were not attacked. But when they opened fire and shot one and tumbled off that, then their cabin was attacked. So, and that's the same thing with the Bauman encounter that Teddy Roosevelt spoke of, that killed the. Maybe it was a Bigfoot. It doesn't say that's what it was, but it alludes to it. They had shot at it earlier too.
Yeah.
So I'd say don't shoot the Bigfoot unless you have to.
Unless you got like a 50 cal, like what's it gonna do?
Okay, I got to run with this one. I'm going to let you to question: are Bigfoot and werewolves connected to each other? Many accounts of both have extended way back to cave paintings. Well, Will, run with that. And
I'm the type of person that I don't believe in a lot of things. Like I was telling you earlier, I believe in, I know about the Sasquatch Bigfoots being real because of my encounter. And also before that is because putting 2 and 2 together about a creature could be out in the wilderness like that. As far as a werewolf, like that goes to the supernatural to me, and I don't really delve into the supernatural things. I'm not saying that those things can't exist, but it's just, not on my grade. I'm sorry.
As I believe it's either Leon from Bigfoot Okanagan, or it's one of those fellows up there said the paranormal, if it's real or whatever, we can't measure it. We don't have a means to measure it.
No.
Now, here's me. I know, to answer your question directly, I do not think that they are connected. As Will and I share pretty much the same opinion, it sounds like, on that. The Bigfoot is a viable biological entity. Okay, I'm inventing that, a VBE, not an EBE, but a VBE, viable biological entity. A werewolf is not. If anything like that exists, to me, okay, I would have to put that in the paranormal category, and that's beyond what I look into. But no, the Bigfoot I think is a viable thing. But I mean, like, you think about werewolves, or if you're talking about them in the shape-shifting entity, that's definitely in the paranormal, because that's that's an old curse or something. And then the new thing you hear people talk about a lot, this supposed dog man or whatever. Is that the same thing? Because
I think it's just a new name for a werewolf, maybe.
Maybe so. I don't know, but that's here up until just very few years ago. I never had anybody talking about Dogman or anything like that. It seems like here fairly recently it's all over the place, but not as to put down toward anybody, anything like that. I'm not about that. But to me, if there is something like that, it would be a paranormal type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, people like to, when they talk about Dogman, to me, it has to be something that can be a viable like physical thing. Like I don't know how a dog, how a half a person and a half a dog could be.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
what
Like, and people
not
point
a
out,
viable biological entity.
yeah, and people point out, like, oh, what about the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs that show half humans and half people? Like, that's just a painting, man. I'm not, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
highly,
like I
highly
said,
doubt those were real people, you know?
right. I'm not, and he elaborated on that. He said he means dog man. There you go. So okay, so
Listen,
that's
I just don't know much about the situation. I can just tell you how, like, my limited information on that, like, I just have a hard time wrapping my mind around how can it be a half a person and a half a dog? Like we were going about, you know, those Sasquatch. It can't be a half an ape and a half a person. You know,
right.
it's the same thing for me. You know,
Right, and the like I said, the dog man thing. Now I do believe there's things that we don't know about that can very much humble us in our opinions. So
for sure.
I'm not claiming I know a lot of stuff outside of that, but again, the Sasquatch type creatures, they go back in pretty much every culture in the world, not just the Native American cultures. You go back to ancient Europe, they had those, and I think they were just, as the population grew in Europe, they were pushed further into Asia, where we got the Almaste and the such as that of Russia in those areas. So that is very, very much a viable thing, and if the stories of them abducting young Native American women, and that one that you did the report on, she lived till fairly recent history. You can find actually pictures of her from like that. Didn't she live up into the 1950s or 60s?
Miss Seraphine, yes, the J.W. Burns accounts from the 1920s. That's when he interviewed her, but yeah, she lived even further than that. Yeah, so
right.
Wait a minute, are we talking about Seraphine Long? I think that was her name, Seraphine Long. Yeah,
That was abducted, then it put like pine sap on her eye.
Yeah.
And took
Seraphine
her up,
Long.
To the cave. Now, in the way those were portrayed, they were very human-like.
Yeah.
But okay, looking back at the dogman thing, how would that reproduce? Does it have puppies? I mean, and I'm not being facetious. I mean, there are so many biological things that would have to fall in. It doesn't make sense to me outside of a paranormal subject matter.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Dave. If it can't have
and that's not to make fun of anybody.
No, not at all.
There,
it's just I haven't researched it enough, and just like as a precursory like thought about it, it has to have something like that's viable for me.
Now, am I on the lookout when I'm in the woods thinking I'm going to see one of those? No, I've never given it a second thought. Here's a question for you, Will. What about your view of the ancient Eliuds?
Iliads?
Yeah.
Ancient Eliuds? The tales? Is that what they're asking?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I could Google it. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Lion, if you can elaborate on that a little bit. Now we got a discussion over here on differences in dogman and skinwalkers. That's
okay. I found the definition of Eliads.
Okay.
It's in the Book of Enoch and Book of Jubilees, copies of which were kept by groups including the religious community of Qumran that produced the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm not familiar with those Lion Platinum, to be honest with you.
Is that in the same categories like the Nephilim and such as that? Probably.
It might be. I mean, maybe there are accounts in those that he's talking about, but I'm just not familiar with.
Let's see here. Yeah, I agree with Elsie. Don't shoot Bigfoot.
No, don't do that.
Put an S on the end of that. Don't shoot Bigfoots. Because if you shoot one Bigfoot, there may be Bigfoots around him that are very unhappy with you. Yeah. And plus, Will, if somebody shot a Bigfoot and got it back and the DNA showed that it was human, you just murdered somebody.
Yeah, at least manslaughter, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, unless it was trying to hurt you.
yeah. I wonder how they would handle that. Like, I don't know how they would handle that because
I don't know.
yeah, who knows?
Okay, here's Lion elaborating on it. Not sure if you believe in this, but I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, Will. Eliads are the antediluvian children of the Nephilim and are considered a part angel human hybrid race of their own. Okay, so antediluvian, that means post flood. Just so I know there's people here interested in it, but some people think that the Nephilim, yes, in Genesis chapter 6, they were the product of disobedient, randy angels and some good-looking human women, and they were the giants of old, the mighty men of old. Okay, they weren't, according to that, big, hairy, shy forest giants. But then after the flood, the book of Genesis also says after there was also that. So that's where this is coming from. Do I believe in that? I don't personally, but that's okay. That is something you will see brought up as a theory out there, and there are those that subscribe to it. I personally do not, and not to make fun of or belittle. My opinions that I have, I try to base them on my own findings and my own research, and within that, I have not found evidence for that myself. Will?
I don't know, David. I don't know how to answer this question. I was raised in church. Like my dad is a really religious person. He's a Baptist guy. You know, he goes to church 3 times a year. He's a church deacon, things like that. So, I grew up hearing these types of things. If you're religious and think things like that, then I think it could be possible. But if you're a person that doesn't believe in religion and things like that, then no, it's not possible. You know what I'm getting with that? Like it depends on where you're coming. It depends on where you're coming from with that. Like with God, if you're religious, anything's possible. Like, right. But if you're not religious, you're like, nah, there's no way angels and real people. So I really don't have an opinion on that either way because I just don't. You know what I mean? Like it could be, if you ask me, like it could be, but I don't know enough about the situation to make an educated statement on it. So I really don't.
But then again, I mean, how would you know it's a half angel hybrid? I mean, that's we don't even have really a type specimen of DNA for a Sasquatch that we can deliberately say that's exactly what it is. But hey, it's fun mystery, Lion, and that's why I'm very careful. I don't belittle. I don't make fun. I try to base the opinions that I have on my own findings, and I have not in that. And I am theologically educated, if that's the way to put it. I'm well read on matters, and I just don't see that myself. Now, we're going to have to address this. Gary Spike Sr., did you see the news this morning about the murder at the South Canadian, blaming it on Bigfoot? I knew about that before it made the news. So anyway, I had a gentleman come in the store and told me about it. What it was, it's not blamed on Bigfoot. What happened is, according to the news down here, and it's made the national news too, there were a couple of guys out noodling on the river down here, and one of them said it was trying to summon a Bigfoot, and it was going to eat one of them. Now, keep in mind, there were drugs involved here. The one guy I know was very much on methamphetamine. And you have heard, anybody that knows me has heard me say the reason I carry a gun in the woods is not because I'm afraid of a Bigfoot attacking me. It's because, some dangerous tweaker may come around and you have to defend yourself. This is exactly what happened. And this guy literally strangled this person to death. The Bigfoot thing was not blaming that on the murder. It was actually a delusion that this guy was having in this methed out craze. So yes, proving my point, the woods can be a dangerous place because you never know who is going to walk in there on that. So that's what that is. So, and actually the person that is the murderer, I knew who that person was. He's been in my store a few times before. So, yeah, that's very close to where I'm at. And yeah, Lion, that's perfectly all right. I want to encourage. Go ahead, Will.
I was gonna say, you know, in this topic or our little, what are we gonna call this category of cryptids?
Community.
There's more than enough room for everybody's opinion. In my opinion, like on my channel, when people leave comments that, you know, they might be downers, okay, I don't have an issue with that. Just don't be disrespectful to people. You know, keep it civil, man. That's all. You respect other people's opinions. I don't know everything about this subject. Like I'm no, there are, as far as I'm concerned, there are no Sasquatch, Bigfoot experts. Like they're just people out there that just research and give their opinions and their theories. You know, that's all that is. So if somebody comes to me with something that, you know, I might not believe or something I really never thought about before, I'm definitely going to give it a listen and let them tell me what they're thinking. You know, that's just the courtesy thing to do.
Yeah, and I don't ever want to discourage someone from bringing up their opinion. It's okay. Hey, if you don't agree with my opinions on a subject, you know what? That is perfectly okay. I'm not going to think any less of you if you do or don't. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed my own opinions to be challenged sometimes. Hey, I learn stuff once in a while. Sure. And I don't know, and Will, you can relate to this yourself. I cannot tell you how many times somebody has been relaying their encounter to me, and there be something kind of even extra weird, and they're fine talking about the Bigfoot, and then say, but you know what, this next part, I don't even know if I should tell it to you. It's like, well, yeah, it's part of your encounter. Tell it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's part of your experience.
You know, yeah, for sure. So definitely welcome. Throw it out there. We'll talk about it. Let's see if we got any questions I missed here, Will. Cashew's doing a great job putting links to Will's. Man, she even put a link to your Patreon, Will.
Well, thank you, Cashew. I don't think anybody's ever used that Patreon, but thank you.
Hey, you know what? I've got super chats available here, but one of the guys that's the biggest contributor, I'm interviewing him here now. So
yeah, I give him a super chat. I've been getting a couple of like super thanks. Have you seen that new option below the videos? Super thanks.
Yeah, and apparently what it is, when you get a certain amount of subscribers, they activate that or something like that. So the first time I got one, it was you, and I was like, wow, that's neat. But
you always remember your first one, right, David?
Yeah. Yeah, Will was my first. Yeah, and now watch somebody edit this, and it'll look really bad. King of Hueco, I don't know how, Hueco Mundo, good chat. Really enjoy having other ideas in the mix. I do too.
Me too.
You know, throw them in the pot. We'll mix them up, and we may agree or disagree, and that is totally okay. And that's one thing, Will, man, the older that I get, the more comfortable I am with the idea that not everybody thinks just like me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. You know what I mean? Like I've learned things. Listen, I used to be really hard-headed when I was growing up. Like I knew everything and don't try to tell me anything. But I've learned as I've matured, like, no, you don't. You're a fool. You know what I mean? Listen to people, listen to other opinions and things like that. And yeah, it's definitely a good thing that I've learned.
Yeah. And Joe, he's a good example here. He says, as an atheist, you first have to prove to me God exists before I can consider anything else involved with that. And Joe's very open with his views on that. I'm not an atheist. I do believe in the Creator, and Joe has never gave me a hard time about it. So, no. And nor have I Joe. So, yeah. We can all be part of the same community and agree to disagree on certain things. Chris says Kent Bigfoot gets a bad rap. Yeah, sometimes he does. Let's see. Hey, there's Mel Gillum, made it late, but not for a date. Howdy, Peach Squatches. We've been on here an hour, and we have just built up to right close to 60 people taking part. Let's see. I'm getting caught up on I do my best to get everybody's questions. If I've gone past it, anyone, just if you don't mind, re-enter it, and I will catch up to it and get to it. But yeah, if you got a question for Will or for me. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, I'm notorious for this. If you have a report you would like to share, I would really like to have it for my database. Some of them, if I use a person's report for a video, it is only with permission. So if you have a report you would like to share, I'd love to have it. Send it to me at bigfootandmore@yahoo.com. That's bigfootandmore@yahoo.com. If you want me to share it, I will. If you don't want me to share it with anyone, I will put it in my database and leave it there. And if you go to WillStar's YouTube channel, he's got a way you can contact him with such as well. And hey, there you go. Refreshing to hear open-minded discussion. I'm all about that.
It's the way it should be.
Let's see.
Platinum asked us what our thoughts are about Bigfoot and infrasound. So I'll let you go first, David.
Let me catch up to it. Oh, okay, lion. Again, we're going back to things. Have I ever experienced that myself? No. Does that happen in the animal kingdom? Yeah, from what I understand, it does. Does it happen with Bigfoot? It's been reported, but past that, I spent a lot of time in the woods. I have not experienced that myself, so I'll have to leave it at that. And Will, you can take it from there.
It isn't something I've experienced either, but throughout my research, I've come across it a few times. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do lions use infrasound to carry across long distances?
Man, I don't know.
I don't know either. But if they do, then to me that makes it more plausible that a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot could use something that has huge lung capacity, huge vocal cords that could just, Now, am I wrong with thinking what infrasound is? I mean, you can still hear it.
Will. I believe infrasound is something way lower than what you hear with the ear, but it has an effect.
But you hear the sound also, but there's other waves that are infrasound, correct? I don't know that I'm correct about that. I think it's a combined thing, but I'm not too sure.
You're probably right. It sounds like you've looked more into it than I have. Honestly, Lion, that is, other than I've not experienced anything like that myself, but it is I think it's a feasible thing. Yeah. But me, myself, I have not. Here we go. Western New York says tigers, elephants can use infrasound.
Okay, so I think it's something that's combined with something you can hear, waves embedded with each other, maybe. You know what I mean? So it's two. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, but it's two separate things. Carrie, your guest from last week, he was talking about when the creature let out. He could feel it in his body. Right. Now, that was at the same time, right? The sound and the feeling at the same time. Well, that was more like what he was talking about is you're a musician too, right? Yeah. You stand in front of that bass guitar rig when it's going and loud. You can feel it just hit you in the chest. I believe that's what Carrie was. Is that infrasound though? Do you feel that way? Yeah, that's not infrasound. Okay. Hey, there's a Squatching Cowboy showed up. How you doing, Joe? How you doing? Had a good interview with Joe here a few weeks ago. We got a pretty healthy number of folks in chat here. Welcome, Will. But yeah, I had a real good interview with Carrie from Bigfoot Odyssey last week. Good grief, we went for 3 hours, and the chat was
stayed up around 150 to 170 something people the whole time, and we finally just got tired and went home.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You get up early in the mornings, right?
Me, if I go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up at 6:30 automatically. I don't know. Let me see here. If you see a question I miss, Will, just point it out to me.
Sure.
But yeah, apparently there's a lot of people on here talking about the different animals that do it. Okay, Mel says lions, gators, among others. I've experienced it with Big Boy. I'm assuming he's talking about the big boy being Bigfoot. So there's somebody that has experienced that. And I think it's a perfectly plausible thing. That doesn't fall into the supernatural. That's something that is in the
physical realm.
Yeah, the elephants. Oh, here we go. Low wavelength sound waves.
That's what infrasound is?
Yeah. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much.
See, it's good to have smart people in the chat, smarter than me anyway, sometimes. Yeah. But hey, I love it when I come on here and learn something new. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to learn, that's for sure, everything I can about these things.
Jim Sherman, he said, did some study on Bigfoot infrasound. Fascinating.
Yeah, I have a lot of encounters that I've been researching where, like, these creatures sound like they feel it in their bodies. Like, a lot of them say they sound like a bull. When a bull, like, roars.
Yeah, they're really lower, like you can feel it.
Yeah. So that's what a lot of people are describing when they hear these creatures. It's kind of like a bull, like.
Well, here's somebody giving numbers. Will, he said, Brian McMahon says lions and tigers produce infraround 18 to 22 hertz. So yeah, we've actually got some numbers there.
Brian's on top of it. He's
okay. There's my buddy John Hodges there, and here is my good friend, the original Brian Gillen. Music super fan and guitar student in my shop here.
Hello, Dave.
Brian.
Brian. Hello, Brian.
Yeah, when I say a music super fan, man, this kid knows his. I call him a kid. He's grown up, but he's younger than me. He knows a lot about that stuff. It's talking about the infrasound. You can feel their sounds in your chest, and you can feel their laugh in the chest. And if they fight with no sound, and you can feel the impact through the ground and in your chest. Yeah, that's deep.
I think these creatures have a lot of abilities that we're still trying to wrap our minds around. Like the camouflage thing. The types of hairs they have. Maybe they have certain type of hairs where it absorbs the light a little bit and it helps them. Who knows? It's all speculation for us, but I think that these creatures do have a lot of abilities that are clearly on not a human level, higher than that, with the infrasound and seeing at night because they travel a lot at night, things like that. Like, I definitely think
here we go. Here, Joe, man, we're getting some good stuff in the chat here. Will, infrasound is a mechanical vibration wave with frequency between 0.0001 and 20 hertz. It has been established that infrasound of 120 decibel or stronger is dangerous to humans.
Yeah.
So, wow. Yeah, Brian, true. The military has weapons that use it. You remember the guy down in Panama, that general that holed himself up in a monastery so our military couldn't get him, and they blasted heavy metal music at the church to try to drive him nuts? Me, I would have just enjoyed the music, But, see, sub to great friend of the channel, Bigfoot Odyssey. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Carrie's been really, really good to us over here, so.
Carrie's a really good dude. I've not known him like you have. I've known him since your stream last week, but I've reached out to him and we've texted each other, and he gave me permission to use anything I need from his video to make a video on his encounter. That's because I told him, listen, I'm only going to use some audio, I'm going to cut everything else out. He's like, brother, use whatever you need. He didn't have to do that. but that just goes to show what kind of guy he is, you know?
Yeah, well, what impressed me about him, I mean, we meet each other online and stuff like we do, but when he came to Oklahoma and did the documentary at Mark Copeland's place,
Yeah.
he was just so unassuming and respectful toward everybody. Him and his partner there, Brad, both were. I was impressed with their character on that.
Yeah, he gave me permission to show the location. He sent me a picture where he was standing, like everything. So,
I've got a question here, and here we go. Keith McDonald, why do you think the Kiamichi Mountains is a good spot for Bigfoots to live? Well, it's
habitat, probably.
There's a lot of remote areas there. There is abundance of water. I mean, you can't, down in the Kiamichi Mountains, you can't go more than a couple of 100 yards at a time without getting to a creek or some kind of water supply. There's abundant game, vegetation. There's just, and the thing is, even if there's people living relatively close, there are so many valleys and hollows and ridges and places for something to hide. It's ideal for anything that wanted to avoid us. It's ideal. Now, I will say this: that area down there around Tallahena and Honubby, there's a lot of folks moving into that area. So, and when what you'll notice, or what I've noticed, is like if you have somebody move in and buy a patch of property, way back in, and they clear a little area and put a cabin up there, they tend to have a lot of encounters during that time, and then after a little while not. So I think there's that initial, like, you moved into their territory, they may not like it, but they're not doing any, like Tanya Kordek that I had on here a couple of weeks ago. My goodness, she had a face-to-face with it. I don't know if you saw that interview, Will, but she gets emotional recounting it.
Yeah.
She thought it was going to kill her. Not because it didn't do anything aggressive. She said just the sheer size of it. Yeah. If it had wanted to, it could have, but it stared at her for a minute and walked back into the woods, left her alone. But
I think that's just a normal reaction. Somebody left me a comment in one of my videos, like, why is there no pictures? And my reply was, and I want everybody out there to think about this. If you were walking in the woods and you saw a Siberian tiger 30 feet away from you, your first thought taking out the camera, or is your first thought, oh my God, I got to save myself before I get killed here?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fear just takes over. It's just a natural thing to you. You know what I mean? Like, people are always like, why isn't there no picture when you see it? Like, well, taking a picture is the last thing on your mind. Even during my encounter, I didn't have a phone or a camera, but that was the last thing on my mind. I didn't think, oh man, I wish I had a camera to take. No, we were like, what in the world's going on here? And even when I walked over there, I wasn't thinking, oh, I wish I had a camera. Now I do. Now I'm like, well, if you take me now and put me back in 2000, heck yeah, I want a camera. You know what I mean? But
right
at the time, when things are happening like that, the first thought in your mind isn't like, oh my goodness, let me take out my phone and take a picture of this creature that is so massive that he could just come and rip me in half if he wanted to. That's just my opinion. I know why there's not a lot of pictures out there, but if you see something like that, it's a shock. It isn't like, oh yeah, I've been waiting for this. Let me get my camera phone. Let me take Hey, Bigfoot, why don't you stop and turn this way for me so I can get not a blurry picture? That's just my opinion on it, but it's like kind of like a pet peeve of mine. And people always talk about, take the picture. You're not thinking about taking a stupid picture unless you're out there literally looking for the creature.
Well, and a lot of people, and whether it's Bigfoot or whatever, a stressful situation, people hear about, well, if that was me, I would have done this or done that. I'll tell you, in a situation like that, nobody knows exactly how you're going to react until it happens.
Exactly. And it's just human nature, self-preservation, right? Like if you see something around you, you think you're going to die or something could kill you, you're like, let me save myself. It isn't, let me take out my camera and take a picture. It's like, let me save myself and figure out a way out of this. Once you get out of that situation, maybe you might be like, man, I wish I should have taken a picture. But at that time, in my opinion, you're not thinking, let me take a picture.
But,
Unless you're a Bigfoot investigator out in the field trying to get a picture. But if you're just out there walking your dog or something, you know, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
Even then, though.
Yeah.
You know, like I use the example when Cornell had come down the March before last, and he and my son were both with me. We were down in the Kiamichis, and something came down and stood outside his tent, walked up in the night, you know. You know what his reaction was? He just wanted it to go away. The next day he was talking, he was like, why didn't I stick my hand out of the tent flap and take a picture? He said, that's what I came all the way from Massachusetts for. But he said all he could think of was, please let it go away.
That self-preservation instinct kicks in. It just kicks in.
And he would not get back in the tent that night. He slept the rest of the night in the front seat of my truck.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw your video. So, yeah, and that's exactly to my point about, like, people aren't thinking of, oh, let me get, they're frightened. They're afraid for their lives. You know what I mean? They're not like, oh, look at the beautiful bird up in the tree. It's not a bird, folks. You know what I mean? It's something that could do you a lot of damage. And people know that when they see it.
I know of people that did not have that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
You know, so it's have you? Yes, Brian, I have I have. I've got a cheaper, like night vision video camera. Elijah used it to do part of our night stuff. That same March that I'm talking about, back a long time ago, back in the late 90s, I had one of those Sony handy cams with a little video cassette in it. And you know, that handy cam back there had a better night vision in it than the newer one I have now. But yeah, I have used them. Let me see what else we got here. All right, we'll see you, Joe. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Take care, Joe.
Here we go. Where are we at? Infrasound can affect bodily processes and brain function. In my case, it just disoriented me. What was that?
What happened?
I heard another voice there for a second. Squatching Cowboy, yeah. Southeast Oklahoma is my hot spot for Bigfoot. Yeah, he's Joe, were you coming back up here anytime soon, or are you still waiting a little bit? New York. Just watch Bigfootville. Yeah, there's not vision on that. Those guys had some expensive stuff when we did that. I remember. Okay, if you watch Bigfootville again, there's one scene of it, panorama of that camera going around and filming these icy mountains. You know, we were in an ice storm. I actually filmed that part. One of the cameramen handed me this huge camera, and he's told me what to push. And I said, man, I can't touch that. It looks expensive. I said, how much is it? He said, $100,000. I said, don't hand me that. He goes, don't worry about it. It's insured. Wow. So I'm standing out there, and I did that, and they actually used that. So sweet. That was a fun time.
I like that show. I watched it. I remember watching that when it first came out back in the day.
Oh, yeah, we filmed it. We did that filming at the last week or two in November of 2001, and they aired it in 2003.
I still remember how upset that police officer was when you guys took him back there at night. And another thing that sticks in my mind is when that Native American guy said, "You smell that? Stink."
That's my friend Tim, and I wasn't there when he did that. Oh my gosh. You know, and man, sadly, Tim, he passed away last year from complications of COVID. And, you know, the last conversation I had with him was just a couple of weeks before he died in the store. And we were talking about that. And I remember we were laughing because I said, you know, and my kids, when that aired, they were little bitty. And my son would just come running into the room out of nowhere, and he would stop and he'd go, "You smell that? Stink." And then he would run off. You know, so, and yeah, that was funny. The last conversation I had with Tim. We were we were laughing about that,
That's
but
funny.
that was something else.
Brian, we're talking about Bigfootville. Brian
Yeah,
was asking, what show are you talking about?
Tallahassee
David.
area, absolutely. I was there Saturday, Joe, at the museum. Imagine, let's see, questions, use all caps. Fully adult male could grab you by the legs and use you as a pulley bone. Yes, it could, and I hope none of them are in that mood.
No, me neither. I mean, they basically could do whatever they wanted to. Use you as like anything.
Yeah. I tell you, Joe, it is so miserable hot. After the book signing at the Bigfoot Museum Saturday, my intention was I was wanting to interview Tanya afterward and then maybe go up to the mountains, but it was just so miserable hot that I just after I finished visiting with folks at the museum, I headed home and turned my air conditioner on, and and that's all I did. But it was great. I enjoyed it. Brown man, you said that Bigfoot Bills. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but but I'm glad you liked it.
David was good in that, that's for sure.
Yeah, actually, what Cashew points out, David's interview with his friend Shelly Harris from Bigfoot Bill, and Shelly, she was part of the. I had a website back then called SouthernBigfoot.com, in which I collected and investigated Bigfoot sightings in Oklahoma, and Shelly at that time, she would investigate the sightings from west of me, and the police officer Dan Belda that was in Bigfootville, and sadly he's no longer with us either. He would investigate stuff more to the northeast, and and Shelly, she came on and did an interview here a little bit. Will, you want to jump in here? Do it anytime.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what you got planned coming up, David. I mean, I know it's hot out there, but when it cools down, what are your next moves?
Well, I want to go back to the author John Vandeventer that writes Bigfoot fiction. Has wrote a series, Relics, Dark Autumn, and Relics 2, the Honubby Remnant, and he's working on a third one of that. I'm going to go down and do an interview and talk to him when it cools down. I want to go back to Tallahassee and do an interview with Tanya Kordek about her encounter, and I want to go back and camp some more in the mountains like I usually do. Last year it wasn't that hot this time. I camped straight through the summer, but when it's 100+ degrees out there, it's just it is miserable. You get in those creek bottoms in those mountains and the humidity and all of that.
Yeah, it gets humid up here in Ohio, but I don't think it gets anything like in
and this is unused. It's ungodly hot down here right now. So there's a lion that you might have missed that earlier. Will and I were talking about the killer Bigfoot in Portlock, Alaska. It's so far I haven't seen anything on that show that has anything really to do with Bigfoot. Unless Bigfoot made the guy seasick and killed the otter they found that floated up on the bank. I just don't. Will, you want to talk about Portlock? I mean, you did a story.
I don't see how they can correlate a Bigfoot to them being sick. Excuse me. I don't see how they can do that. Like, they have an upset stomach. So they think it's a Bigfoot doing that to them? I don't understand. I got to get something to drink. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Bigfoot zapped Will where he could not talk about it.
Yeah, he said, shut the hell up. All right. Sorry. Yeah, so there's a lot of things on that show that are just way out there for me. I made the video on the area, so I know, what the encounters were back in the day, and those encounters are night and day compared to what they're doing now. Like I was telling David, I feel sorry for the people that they're using because they're trying to use people that are local that aren't used to being on television or carrying in television shows, and you could tell. The show suffers because of that. They don't know what to do. They're sitting there like, oh well, So hopefully it'll get better. I've only watched what is it?
And,
2 or
and
3
you know, in
episodes.
fairness, we don't know like the producers and stuff that you're not seeing there. Having worked with the travel,
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't have that. I didn't have a negative experience with them. They were really cool to us. But what you don't see, I take it in my case on Bigfootville, when you would see us, you had 2 cameramen, you had a sound man, and you had 2 producers that were just outside of the camera directing thing. So on that deal in Port Locke, Alaska, we don't know how many of them they got around them saying, hey, do this. Hey, do this.
Yeah.
See that dead otter there? Go over there and make like that's a, Bigfoot must have. I mean, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes there.
And a lot of these shows, if you've noticed lately, they're bringing in the production crew into the show. Like with Expedition Bigfoot, they bring the cameraman into the show now. They talk, like Russell talks to him and they show him. And the same thing is going on with this Killer Bigfoot. The last episode, I think I saw the second one, maybe it's the second or third episode, where the producer or something goes up to the security guy, hey, we heard something last night. And, it's in the show. So, I mean, you can see the way these shows are evolving and using people that, I don't know, just it doesn't make me want to like, oh, I can't wait to see you next week. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. I'm recording the series on my DVR just to watch in case, there's something that I might miss. But
so
I'm not like running home to watch the show.
Why is it, Will? Even if we think the show is ridiculous, we still watch the darn thing.
I don't know. It just we're so into the subject that we want to try to glean anything we can.
I'm sure we're not guilty. King of Hook Mundo says Bigfoot's been known to throw stones and even large pieces of trees at people when they're near their nests. Well, I have experienced the rock throwing from small pebbles to a rock about 25 or 30 pounds that one bounced off a tree outside of our camp about 20 years ago. So, yeah, that's definitely they do that.
Yeah, they do.
I
don't know that it's only nest, though. I don't know that it's only nest, though. I think it could be.
No, I wasn't near
territory.
Yeah. And this was different areas, different occasions. One, that I was in a cabin way down in Area X. If you hear about.
Uh-oh. His internet went out. We know you're fixing it. Don't worry, David. All right, let me go ahead and answer a question here. If Colossus asks, if y'all had a chance to go camping for 1 week in the Nahanni Valley all by yourself with a rifle, would you? All expenses paid. I've done some research on that area. There's not a lot of Bigfoot encounter information out there, but that tribe up there did believe that there were beasts up in that valley. There's just not a lot of information on it. There's more information on the miners that went up there that had their heads cut off. I mean, their heads were missing. A lot of them, they called it the Headless Valley, part of the Nahanni Valley up there. But as far as if those were Bigfoot doing that, I can't see that. I think it's just probably other miners up there murdering people because there was gold and things like that in the area. Could be wrong. Never been there, but there's not a whole bunch of information on the Nahanni story as far as the Bigfoot. What's up, David?
Hey, my internet went out. I have my phone handy just in case it starts. Okay, I'm going to badmouth AT&T on here. There's no excuse for a company that big to have completely crap internet. I pay my bill every month, and I get crap internet. So do not use AT&T internet. It is garbage. Consistent, I will say it's consistently garbage. So anyway, there's my rant.
Yeah, hey, I agree with you. You're in
But,
Oklahoma. You're not like up
okay,
in
I think I'm
the
going to
Arctic.
be able to get.
You are definitely you're in Oklahoma. You're not in the Arctic, so you definitely deserve better internet. Pyromedic. I saw that documentary. That older gentleman and his wife. That was a good one.
Well, I'm back.
What's up, David? We were talking about the Nahanni Valley. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Up in Canada and the Northwest Territories. There's supposedly Bigfoot stories up in there, but I've done some research on there and I couldn't find a whole bunch about Bigfoot. I found out a lot about, miners getting their heads cut off and things like that. But to me,
Yeah, the Headless Valley or something they call it.
Yeah.
Like
to me, that's probably just other miners doing that,
And that's the thing, and that's the same thing that I've talked to like Leon and other, about that. Like when you find a supposed tree structure, the first thing I look at is like, what else is there around that would lead me to believe that a Bigfoot done that? You always look, and like the Headless Valley there, have they seen evidence that points towards these creatures doing that, or could it be other miners? And they may have.
There's a couple encounters that I've done, like the sixes in Oregon back in the 1800s, where miners were found dead. You ask yourself, well, was that another miner that killed them, or was that like a Bigfoot? Stories like that, encounters like that, where it makes you wonder.
So let's see. AT&T's gone. They need to replace the lines. Here's what it is. Hey, there's Mid-South Sasquatch. How you doing?
What's up?
Let's see. Notice. Okay, here's a good question, Will. I'm going to let you take this one.
I absolutely do think that they know, and they're covering it up. If, not if for me, because I know, but people are, wonder, could these creatures be real? If the creatures are real, and I know they are, the government knows about these creatures. Like, there's really not a lot out there that the government doesn't know in this day and age. They just don't want to tell you. They don't want to let you know that they know. They want to pretend that they're stupid on the subject. And people ask me, well, why would they keep it a secret? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I could go down a couple of them right here. One of them, in my opinion, is economics. Like, it would tear up the economy. Like, all the new home building would just, in my opinion, be hampered incredibly. Like, all these territories that these creatures are in, and this is just my opinion I'm giving here, would have to be set aside. Like, if they're going to set aside all these square miles for a spotted owl,
that's a good point.
Just imagine what they're going to do for one of these creatures back here, right? Like, when they find out that they go hundreds of miles in a week to another area and 100 miles back this way in another week, you got to protect all that area. There's no more logging. There's no more hunting. There's all that stuff, in my opinion, is out. If they admit to these things being real. So basically not all of, but a good majority of Canada and a lot of areas in America would just be off limits to industry. So it would crush the economy. That's just the economic reasons. Now you can get into like religious and scientific, like, what happened? Where's this family tree member coming from that no one's ever told us about? So to me, there's a lot of reasons why they keep it from the people. You can pick your reason why,
Yeah, maybe I would go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said, what about you, David? What do you think?
Oh, okay. Me, I don't know about. To me, about the government would be why, and again, what you mentioned about tourism, stuff like that might be affected. To me, the entities or entity that would most be negatively affected by these things being admittedly real would be the lumber companies, would have the biggest stake in keeping that secret. I would.
If there's no lumber, there's no new house building. If there's no new house building, then the economy starts going even worse than it is now.
Now, as far as it, I've heard some people say, well, tourism, it may make people afraid to go out in the woods. Personally, I think it would have the opposite effect.
I do
think
too.
there would be people going in there making a nuisance of themselves. And,
I do too.
I'm okay. Look at Yellowstone National Park up there. How many people are gored by a buffalo or attacked by a bear because they get out of their car and walk up to it with a camera? And they know beyond doubt that grizzly bears don't like it when you come up and stand in front. and bull bison don't like it when you come and crowd them. Yet they do it anyway.
It's like lack of common sense. To me, it's like evolution in right there in front of us. You know what I mean? Like, come on, people. Like, you got to do better. You can't go out there thinking you're not going to do.
I think it would be the opposite. And we've seen that when I was investigating the casino footage there. When that word got out, me and another researcher were up there in that wooded area, and there were just people flooding in there, trespassing on the tribal property and just making a nuisance, So yeah, imagine that on a scale where the government comes out and said, oh, by the way, there's Bigfoot, and we don't want anybody in this place right here. We want them left alone. What do you think is going to happen?
Right. Opposite effect.
So now, who knows? I'm not even going to pretend to figure out what the government's thinking. I can't even figure that out on a local level.
Right.
But I think definitely lumber companies would not want that information out because that would cut down their.
And there's speculation that Teddy Roosevelt developed the national park system for these creatures to have places to hide out, But I don't know if that's true or not. If it is, it happened at a time where, like, the creatures were just really the baseline of these creatures were known, so they didn't know how far they would have to travel. So, like, if it came forward today, like, these creatures are real and they're found to be nomadic and travel hundreds of miles in a week or something, those national park areas are going to have to triple or quadruple or something, and it just going to have a huge effect on the economy.
Have either of you ever heard of anyone using dog whistles while investigating? I haven't, but and if you go on down to Mopar, no, I got to go back to that question though. Who was it said on down? Bruce Beaver said, I've mentioned doing that on a few shows, and no one said they had. Some said they thought it would make them mad, and it may. That's the thing when you try to communicate, you don't know what that whistle means.
Does it mean, hey, there's people over here, or does it mean, hey, there's dinner? You know what I mean? Like, who knows what it means?
If you could have any one piece of equipment, no budget limit, what would it be, Will?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably night vision. You know what I would like to have? Night vision drone. Fly that thing up with night vision over the trees and things like that. Probably something like that, Mopar. I just bought myself a new laptop. I reinvest the money I make on my YouTube channel into my equipment, so I just bought a new laptop and microphone, things like that. But I still need to get a nice drone, so I can use that. Because when I go in October to where my encounter happened, I'd like to have a nice drone to show the area. Because like I was telling you, David, the area is beautiful. I mean, it's just stunning in the fall. So that'd be nice. What about you?
I would like to have that camera that Carrie's been using down there in Florida that has the color night vision in it. Nice. That you can take either still shots or video. And it's incredibly expensive. I think Carrie told me you can find a used one sometime for about $4,000, and that's just the lens.
Wow.
So, if I win the lottery or something like that, so far what little money I've made on my YouTube channel, I've used it to pretty much buy food and fuel to get to the places I go to.
Reinvesting back into the channel,
Reinvesting back,
Absolutely.
Now, if some multimillionaire come and decided to fund my stuff, I probably wouldn't come out of the woods.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had a viewer, and you got to take this with a grain of salt, but said I'm a multimillionaire, and if you ever come across any, I'll give you millions of dollars to prove that it exists. And I'm like, man, what do you expect from me right here, man? I'm in Ohio at the moment. I'm not in Washington State or anything like that. But yeah, so you run into people like that claim maybe they are. You never know. YouTube, you never know who you're talking to,
I'm trying to get caught up over here on the chat. Okay, guys, we're going on 2 hours, so I do need to get going here pretty quick. Has anybody got any questions for Will or me, but especially Will, since we've got him on here?
Colossus is asking, have either of you seen the Thinker Thunker video of the group of Sasquatch walking behind the bison? I found it very interesting.
I know what you're talking about, but I thought that one was not debunked as a hoax, but debunked as not being that. But I could be wrong, but I know what you're talking about.
No, I think you're right about that. I think that
it was people or something.
Hunters or people walking back through there, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I could be wrong, but it seems like I remember something about that. Mopar said, Mel Gillum said, Mopar, I'd buy a new camper, an M1 Abrams.
Uh-huh.
Hey, you couldn't
What's wrong with that?
Couldn't sneak up on it very well in that, though.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, he might be curious, though. I might be curious.
Yeah, you never know. Hey, one thing, you wouldn't be very limited on the places you could get to with one of those things.
Yeah, go wherever you want to go, kind of in the flat one.
That could be a rumor. Okay. Aren't they recognized in any Army manual, if I'm not mistaken? It seems like I've seen them, that they were mentioned in something like that up in Washington State, but I won't swear.
Was it the Forest Service?
Something like that.
Forest Service is what I think it was.
But up in Washington, there's a state law against killing one. I mean, I'm sure it's more for tourism than anything else, kind of like our trapping season for them down here. But yeah, I think it is like Will was saying, and Forestry Service mentioned as one of the wildlife up there. Okay.
I don't know what you would like to know, Mel. Mel's asking me about elaborate on some of the skills for my sleuthing, geographic sleuthing. Right. I just do a lot of research, Mel. People think these videos are quick, easy to make, and they're not. I spend 20, 25 hours on a video, researching, looking at the maps, like topographical maps, Google Earth. There's all kind. I go to the national map, so they give you different kinds of maps you could look at. A lot. I mean, there's a lot into it. But as far as like what kind of skills, I mean, I'll share them. I have no problem with that. I'm the type of person like, don't hide it, divide it. You know what I mean? Like if you know how to do something, don't keep it to yourself. Teach other people. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but when you finally pinpoint that location and everything clicks together and you double check on the facts and you're like, yeah, there it is. There's that. There. I found it. It's like, man, it's a really good feeling. You know what I mean? Like, wow, I can't believe I finally found that. I've been looking for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I finally found it. Now I can show people where this happened. Now, sometimes I'm not able to pinpoint the exact location, like that the juvenile Bigfoot. I could just show you a few of the tunnels, right on that in that area where it happened, but I didn't know the exact point. But I tried my best to show you the exact point as far as I can, and hope people enjoy it.
But yeah, I was watching your videos today, Will, and that's the thing that I'm like, man, you're putting a lot of effort into each of these.
I do.
So
maybe I don't know. Maybe YouTube sees that and they're like, maybe that's why I grew a little bit. I don't know. I have no idea. The YouTube algorithm is a mystery to me. You know what I mean? I'll have some videos like 2 weeks ago. It's over 100,000 views. The one after that is like 20,000 views. You know what I mean? And then the next one's over 100,000 views. I'm doing the same exact things. I'm using the same exact keywords, you know, but you just never know. My next video coming out is going to be the one with Carrie's encounter. That'll be coming out Friday.
Oh, wow. I'm definitely.
It should be like one hell of a video. Like that encounter is amazing. And like it should be a great video. YouTube should share it. But who knows? You know, it might get 10,000 views. You just never know. You just got to roll with it.
I knew what the formula was on that. I just don't understand because and I know even myself, I don't get not even nearly the views you do on your videos. Of course, mine aren't near as elaborate as yours either. But I mean, I've put out some that I think, man, this is going to be, people are going to really dig it and not get very many at all. And then one that I wasn't especially impressed with gets several thousand hits, you know. So you never know.
That's definitely happened to me too.
Here's his uncle in Oklahoma. It's too hot to handle. It's been brutal. Yes, it has. It's just. You were answering this, weren't you, Will?
Yeah, that's the Carrie encounter that's coming up. He was kind enough to let me use some audio. Well, the audio of the encounter, and his video is 2 hours long. Mine's only going to be like 20, 30, you know, because if you guys want to see the full video, you go to his channel. That's where you go. I'm just showing you the, small condensed, just giving you the encounter, and that's it. You want to see all the extra stuff that he put work into, you go to his channel. That's the way it should be. When I make these videos on other people's accounts, if they have them on their channel, I'm only using the bare minimum, like maybe the audio, maybe a picture here, maybe a 2-second video clip just to show a location, because there needs to be respect there for that other channel. When they watch it on my channel, there needs to be something for them to go watch on that other channel. I can't take their video and try to make that, would just be wrong. You know what I mean? So I always keep in the back of my mind, only do the bare minimum here that's going to keep people entertained and get the story, and it's going to be a great video still, but leave all the rest for their video so people have stuff to watch in their video. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I did with Carrie's too. Like I said, my video is only going to be like 20, 30 minutes. His is 2 hours.
Right. So. Well, all right. I'm caught up over here. I think we've got to everybody. Will, man, thanks for coming on. This has been a good interview. We've got up to around, I think at one time we got up to around 70 in chat. And we've kept it at around 50. That's just pretty good. So
I appreciate you guys hanging out.
Yeah, I appreciate all the questions and folks that shared their views on stuff. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody keeping it civil. I know if you've looked at some podcasts you go on, you've got a lot of trolling, just hateful stuff in it. I have not had to deal with that. And I'm, maybe Cashew's getting them out of there before they make an impact. But again, big thanks to our moderator, Cashew. She does an amazing job. And big thanks to everybody for stopping by, and Will for being such a great guest. Have to do it again sometime.
Whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. So that being said, I'm going to call it a night and go home and get some sleep. I got band practice tomorrow night.
Nice. You got to start making some videos.
Oh, man. There's my buddy Mark. He got here right as we was leaving.
What's up, Mark?
Yeah. So anyway, I'll have to watch it there. And there's my other friend Malcolm stopped in, and so anyway, it'll be all recorded and up. You can watch right behind us.
One quick question: have you ever thought about making some videos of you playing, or no?
No, there's too many really good musicians on the internet for me to do that.
All right. I mean, I think you might be shortchanging yourself, but that's all right.
What I do what now?
I said you might be shortchanging yourself there a little bit, David, but
No, I'm not delusional at all. What I play right, but I'm not good enough to be bragging about it. But it's just something we're going to do for fun. This is coming up. This is my 30th year in business in my music store. And
congratulations.
It's going to be me and the guitar teacher here and my son Elijah and a couple other friends are throwing a band together, and we're going to have a concert with some other bands to celebrate sometime in the fall. So
you got to get some footage of that. Put it on your channel.
Well, I'll get the footage and then I'll edit it to the parts where I'm not messing up.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness. Okay, everybody, good night. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate all of you. And you guys have a good night, a safe night, and we'll see you next Tuesday, hopefully. And we're going to have a guest, Craig Woolheater from the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. So be sure and stop by. Good night.
Good night.